that time of year, and everything is coming in. This is the time to start looking for it because you got a great selection.
You have a lot.
We're getting a lot.
Yes.
And the smell of mulch and fertilizer, we'll call it, maybe a little manure.
It feels like
Manure.
It feels like spring. It smells like spring. That's what it is.
We have so much to check out here from Plantopia this morning. We're going to be looking back at some of Chris H. Olsen's top tips when it comes to your flower beds.
Later on in the show, we're going to be checking in with Chris and his geraniums. He said, this is what tells us spring is here. It's all when the vine returns.
The Vine, we're here at Plantopia where Chris H. Olsen has put us to work this morning.
Yeah. What's the deal with this?
Yeah, we're checking out all of the great things that he has to offer at Plantopia.
Yeah, a lot of new plants are in. It's that time of the year. And man, we've got some petunias. I think Chris is always talking about petunias. And I can see why. They're beautiful, Ashley.
They are gorgeous.
Yeah, but right now we want to take a look back at some very unique plants that Chris H. Olsen has shown us in the past, and we want you to watch it. And I'm glad you're here because I was telling you, I just went and trimmed my crepe myrtles.
I know, I'm impressed.
But I'm like, my flower beds are lacking right now, and I don't know how to fix it.
Well, I'm going to bring you some fluff and fillers.
Okay, good.
So, and some of these are sun, some of these are shade, and these are all easy plants that anyone, including you,
I can plant
can
these.
grow, and these are perennial except for one of them,
Okay.
which means they come back every single year.
Wow.
Some of them are evergreen. So I'm going to start with a few things. Now, if you like, I like aggressive plants. So I like plants that fill a flower bed. Because,
Right.
you know, the fuller a flower bed is, the less maintenance it is.
Yeah.
Opposite of what people think, because it drowns out your weeds.
Okay.
So you don't have to weed. This one is called Mexican petunia. It's just about to bloom. It's not like the old-fashioned petunia. It is a perennial. It will get at least twice the size, height of this, but will spread. This one plant will probably get 10 foot by 10 foot space.
Wow.
And it blooms all summer long. The hotter it is, the better it grows.
Really?
But there is a dwarf variety. It comes in dark purple, a pink, and a white. So
Okay.
Mexican petunia. Now, one of my favorites are salvias. Now, this salvia is called Midnight Blue,
That's
and it
beautiful.
is a perennial, and it will get about 30 inches tall
Okay.
and about 30 inches wide, but it blows in the wind like this, so it has texture and movement in the flower bed all summer long, and an awesome pollinator.
Okay.
Bees, hummingbirds, all will be attracted to your garden, including butterflies.
Nice.
And it comes back strong every single year. So I use it as a backdrop plant because it gets tall and it adds great movement.
That's what I was wondering, like, how do you layer this out to where it looks like you have some depth in your, you know, that, I
Well,
guess that's,
you know, you always hear tall go down
Yeah.
smaller towards the audience. I kind of slightly play by that rule.
Okay.
I mix and match. I love to pack a flower bed.
Okay.
And I will just do different heights and mix them too, and it just tends to work. But technically, if you have a pathway, you do want your shorter plants along the pathway.
Right, makes
so,
sense.
And
Okay.
so, speaking of shorter plants, we have lots of different ground covers. This is hot sun. This is sedum, ogon. This is red dragon. These guys are perennials and bloom. If you have a shady area and want a ground cover, especially between like stepping stones, this is mazis, which comes with a blue flower that you can see and white as well. Easy to grow and spreads throughout the garden. Doesn't look like much right now, but this is catmint. And catmint is awesome. It blooms and looks just like English lavender, but English lavender does not grow well here in the South. It doesn't look like much now, but it's going to be about 12 inches in bloom. Add some tickweed or coreopsis. This one's called golden bronze. Great color. This is one of my favorite. This is salvia, which is an annual, meaning it will not come back, but it's called skyscraper for a reason because it will get about 4 foot tall. And I'm telling you what, it comes in purple, it comes in orange, pink, and red, and it blooms all summer long.
Nice.
Great movement in the garden.
and of course the hanging baskets.
I brought this one because this is called Richmond begonia, and nobody grows it but us. It's exclusively for Botanica Gardens and Plantopia. And I'm going to tell you what, if you like begonias, this guy gets about 24 inches tall, 24 inches wide, and turns dark burgundy wine foliage.
This is great. If I came to Plantopia or Botanica Gardens and I said, I need help, would your staff be able to do that?
Yeah, you know what? And bring pictures. Take pictures on your phone. We can look at it and kind of help you out. Lay it out the way you're supposed to plan it if you're a do-it-yourselfer, or we can take care of it for you.
Okay, that's helpful. Chris H. Olsen been coming here for about 85 years. Thank you so much.
30 years.
30 years. That's unbelievable. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing these beautiful plants.
Oh, there are so many different kind of plants that you can choose from. And Chris H. Olsen has unique from the more common, from the geraniums and
To something you've never heard of or that you've seen, you're like, what is that? And he always has the answers. And you come here and you just get inspired.
Right. Well, Chris knows that every plant is new to me because I can never remember the names. So I'm like, oh, look at this one.
Yeah, we call them the white ones.
Yes. The red ones are pretty. I like those. Yeah. The guys are here with us right now. Guys, what are we looking at? Hey, guys.
I like the Mexican petunias that you talked about and the salvias because I love hummingbirds, right? And you said that is one of the best ones that brings those and bees in, right?
Yeah, well, salvias are great pollinators, and there's all different types of salvias. We just talked about in the last segment.
Right.
The skyscraper is my favorite, but they produce a great little fragrance. And hummingbirds, bees, they all love it.
Well, and then you were also talking about plants that do very well in the heat. And I don't know about you all over there, but it's hot in my flower beds, so that was really helpful information too.
Yeah, right now it's springtime. Everything looks beautiful right now. But when you get into summertime, everything starts to get tired and spent. So like the Mexican petunia thrives in the heat. Rebecca thrives in the heat. So there's so many different alternatives to use. You just have to ask when you go to your professionals at the garden centers.
Yeah.
Chris, I love the hemijangs, though. Just when you mix a lot of them together.
Yes, hemijang is the art of mixing it up. And you like the geranium
I do like the
baskets.
geraniums. I've learned so much from Chris.
And I swear to you, 1,000 Mexican petunias at my house. We have them everywhere. And I think we went all over the city. We just bought everyone out. And so if you couldn't find one, I'm sorry, it was us.
So I see these everywhere. What are we looking at here right in front of us?
Okay, these are geraniums, and we were talking about it before. They're like the first signs of spring because they can take cooler nights. Now, they can't take frost when it lays on top of them, but if they're on cover porch, they're A-okay. And they're really easy to grow, and they're just pop full of bright color. And so that's why it gets everyone in the mood for springtime. Yeah. But there is a secret, and I never told you guys this, I never said it on Channel 11, to grow in geraniums.
What's the secret?
Are you going to tell us?
Yeah. Oh, he's whispering. What?
Oh, I'm going to tell you all.
Don't tell us.
Okay, we'll share it with everybody.
Oh.
Baking soda.
Yeah, here's
baking
the secret.
soda.
Okay, geraniums like alkaline soil.
Oh.
And the way to do this with baking soda. So if you water your geraniums with 2 quarts of water and 1 tablespoon of baking soda, that stimulates them to bloom, and they will bloom all spring, summer, and probably, depending on our temperature, on into the fall.
Yeah, mine were even into December. They looked beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to write you a check.
Well, I'm okay with it.
I know you are.
Make sure you spell it. It's Olsen.
Oh, yeah, right. What about these hanging baskets here? What are those?
Okay, now these are petunias, which are great to complement geraniums. Yeah. And these are called supertunias. And supertunias are in the wave family, but they are tough because they're self-cleaners. They drop their flowers, so you're not deadheading them like you have to deadhead geraniums.
Right. Wait, I don't know what that means.
Deadhead means taking the spent flowers off.
Oh, okay.
So if you don't want to do that, this is a plant for you because it's low maintenance.
I sound like a deadhead. Yeah. I need low maintenance for sure.
No, I thought that was the Grateful Dead.
And the color is intense. And the secret to those is to plant them in a bigger pot. But if you're going to leave them hanging, they're going to take a little bit more abuse with the wind and the heat. So you want to fertilize those. Any all-purpose fertilizer can work on those. Miracle-Gro, whatever you prefer. Do it about every 2 to 3 weeks, and you'll have a 500% difference on how they grow during the growing season.
That's incredible. Ashley and Tracy, what's one of our favorite things to talk about? Locally grown things,
Absolutely.
Right?
That is one of the things, whether it's local plants or local food, and I hear you've got a lot of that here.
We do. We have local growers all throughout Arkansas that grow for us. We custom design our hemijang line, which is the mix of different plants, and everything is shipped to us right out of the greenhouse within an hour or two. They ship it right to us, so it's not in a semi. It's not sitting on racks for a couple of days out in the hot sun. It's all fresh. Plus, it supports our local economy.
Sure. And we know that whatever's being grown here is meant for the Arkansas climate and the soil here.
It's a great point. They're all for the South.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to need to know what this hemijang thing that you were talking about. What does that mean?
Chris will have to show her about hemijang. Yeah,
we're popping it up right now. Isn't that beautiful?
That's a Chris H. Olsen special for sure. Yes, and I think you made up that word too.
I made it up.
Did you really?
I made it up years ago and didn't even know it.
Hemijang?
Hemijang.
The art of mixing it up.
You heard it first right here.
And coming up, you don't have to save all the spring fun for your flower beds. You can bring a lot of color indoors too. We check out some of the most popular indoor plants next.
to the Vine and a very special edition. We're talking here with Chris H. Olsen and Plantopia. But what I want to know about right now, we're checking out all these indoor plants. Do you have indoor plants in your home to kind of keep you happy?
I do. I actually love indoor plants. You wouldn't believe how much it just livens up the home.
Sure.
And just, you do have to remember to make sure and get on a schedule for watering and taking care of them. And especially, when we head into winter, all of my big porch plants come inside too. So I look like I have my own little garden inside as well. But I'm also loving all the shopping that's available here. I might go home with a few more plants.
There is a lot here, and we want to take you now to a video we shot not too long ago about indoor plants. Enjoy.
At my house, I always have a couple pots. I always have something blooming in it. Not for anybody else, but for myself, because it really does put a smile to your face. So I brought things that are easy to grow. That's the number one key, but they bring color.
For me, that's important.
I'm going to start with the Rieger begonias. These are awesome. Look at the
They're
colors.
so
They look
gorgeous.
They're real and they're so easy. They'll
these are
bloom inside
begonias.
for like 3 to 4 months.
Really?
Strong. And all I do is they're 6-inch. I'll drop them in another pot and just sit them like that. Bright, indirect light. Keep them moist. I water mine once a week, and they will bloom like this for months.
What? Okay, I will take all 3 of these.
Yeah,
These are
and
so
these are great
gorgeous.
Valentines, by the way.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
it's something that lasts for months instead of just a week of cut flowers.
I
I love the Rieger begonias, and then you can add different foliage plants, which have different colors to them, different textures. This pothos is on a pole, so it
love
adds the
that.
height. I love the prayer plant with the glossy, shiny foliage and the purple in it.
This looks fake too. I mean, those
It looks
leaves are
fake,
so
but this is
perfect.
all real. And then the calantros are wonderful. You can find these sometimes in the grocery stores, but we carry them all the time. They come in an assortment of bright colors, the oranges and the yellows. Remember, yellow is the number one color, happy color. So if you always add yellow, it does make you feel good.
This is such a pretty color here.
This is called cyclamen, and cyclamen are great because they can go in a semi-shady area inside. They are a tubular bulb, and you just water them once a week. The key thing is not to overwater them, and they'll bloom for weeks inside. And then I brought different bromeliads. We were familiar with the torch one, the torch orange.
I love this because it's tropical looking.
Tropical looking, and again, it blooms for months.
And
but
I
then
wanna
there's
be in the
also
tropics.
these. These are lower, but they're not about the flower, they're about the foliage. Tricolor, and these are sister plants to it with really cool color. And then one of my favorite indoor plants is the Rex begonia.
Why is that your favorite?
Because the foliage, and there's so many different varieties about it. You just get attracted to certain things, and so I like to drop them in clay pots, and then I'll mix a couple varieties together, and they'll bloom. They'll bloom probably in about a month or two, but it's the foliage that they're known for.
I'm about to ask a tough question. We don't have a lot of time for this, but how do you know if your house is a good candidate for nice indoor plants? Because I'm like, I don't know where I would put any of this.
Well, it's about light.
Okay.
So you need not full sun. You just need bright
I'm
light.
sure he could find a place in one of his many main rooms to put a plant.
Many.
what about artificial lights? Is that okay or no?
Yeah, artificial light is great. Bathrooms sometimes don't have windows. So if you have a little lamp that you have plugged in next to the sink, I do that. I'll put a plant next to that so it gets the light.
Okay.
So, and there are low.
But you have a lot of
required
windows.
points.
I do.
Yeah.
In all his rooms.
In all of his rooms, he has a lot.
I should
He
have
has
never
a
said
lot
that.
of windows in his house of many rooms. So where can people find you?
I'm at Botanica Gardens. Also, we have a garden center in North Little Rock called Plantopia.
And they're a little different, got a little different vibe.
Yeah, Botanica is kind of a boutique, and Plantopia is a 7-acre garden center, so it's much larger. But you can catch me at chrisholsen.com.
There you go. All right. So, of course, the Edgemont house is yours, and you've got to check that out. It's gorgeous. It has many rooms.
We're
just like
doing
Adam's
some
house.
changes in the many rooms of it right
Are
now.
you?
Yeah.
Can we come do a tour again?
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll look good.
That's coming up this spring. You promise?
Yeah, I promise.
All right.
He hates us right now. He's like, yep.
So for what it's worth, I don't have that many rooms in my house. Thank you very much. Yeah.
What are the easiest indoor plants to keep alive? Because that's where I need to shop.
Well, we have actually a little section here, which are easy plants, and that's why we're here to help you. But the pothos, which is the most common probably, is the easiest.
that.
And it's just because they're just so easy, but they come in so many different varieties and colors now, so it doesn't look like your grandmother's pothos, like the neon and such. And then there's one also called Chinese evergreen. easy to grow, can even almost grow in a dark closet.
Take me to the Chinese evergreen.
That's right.
All right, that's where we're going after this.
And you talked about the family of begonias, right? Those are very popular as well.
Well, there's Rex begonias, which are indoors. They can be outside during the summertime, and they have beautiful color foliage. And one's called escargot, and the leaf looks like a snail shell. It's really cool.
Oh, escargot?
Escargot.
I'm kidding.
Yes, that's great. Indoor plants, it improves your mood. It just really helps things out, especially, when the weather's not quite as great.
It is, especially during the winter time. If you can bring a blooming begonia or cyclamen inside, it does put a smile on your face and gives you a glimpse of hope for springtime. But plants also keep our air fresh. Now, a lot of us have heard about that, but it really is true. It purifies the air. So you want to have some...
I've been to your house, so your air must be the cleanest in town because you have a lot of indoor plants.
No sinus infections.
We're just getting started here on the Vine. Next, Chris is taking us to the shade tunnel. If you have a very shady yard, we're going to find out what will grow there. Coming up on the Vine. Don't go anywhere.
We've been looking back at a lot of segments that you've done. You've been coming around THV 11 for a long time.
I think at like 93 or not, whatever time the weather garden was is when I started.
Tracy, you were just a young little girl.
A young little girl wanting to be in the weather garden myself, and look at us now, Chris. Look at us now.
We're still young.
That's right, we are. I know I will probably spend the spring break working on my beds, and when the weather gets a bit like this, I go plant crazy.
Yeah.
But sometimes I forget about the specific things that I need to look at. So what are some of those things?
Well, we're in the shade tunnel right now, right?
Yeah, shade is a big problem we have because you think about it, either you're on the north or the east side of your house, especially if it's two-story, you get a lot of shade. And then we also have big oak trees, which produce not only shade, but they steal a lot of the water. So the question people come to me is like, what is shade? What is semi-shade? Now, a shade area is usually about 3 hours of bright light, usually in the morning, and then the afternoon is pretty dark shade. Semi-shade is about 5 hours of morning light and then afternoon shade. So you have to know the difference because most shade plants will do great in both, but not all semi-shade plants will do good in dark shade.
Yeah, so people, sometimes want to have color, but if it's too shady, it's hard to plant flowers with big blooms, right?
Exactly right. Azaleas, hydrangeas, they all need semi-shade areas. So they need about 5 to 6 hours of sunshine, especially the morning, to bloom. They'll grow in shade, they just won't bloom as much. So you want to look for plants that have texture in the foliage and color in their foliage. And we've been picking out some here. Adam found a few for his yard.
Yeah, what do we have here? Because I do have a very shady...
Because you got trees, right?
Yeah,
big trees.
Lots of
Yes,
trees.
yes.
So what do we have here? What's this first thing we're looking at?
That's called Thatsia japonica, and the foliage is beautiful. It's also called a falsarilia, and it looks like a tropical plant, but it's winter hardy here. What's great about it, that the leaves get bigger as it gets older, and they look like a snowflake. Now, this one's called spiderweb because if you look at the foliage real closely, you can see a variegation of like a spider web on it. So it adds that color you were talking about. Then the plant next to it, which looks like a lily pad.
They look like elephant ears
It
to
does,
me.
but we also call it the tractor seat plant because it
Oh,
looks like
yeah.
an old tractor seat.
An old 8N
Oh
Ford.
my God, let me tell you
I
about this
love
plant.
this one.
We have it grown for us. You can't find it everywhere, but it's just as easy to grow as a hosta. But here's the best thing. Tolerates great shade and it's dare resistant.
Do they get
I'll
big
take
too?
They'll get bushier, but not so much taller than that. And if you plant a cluster together, it almost gives the illusion of a lily pads in a pond. But then in fall, it blooms tall spikes with yellow, my favorite color, with yellow daisy flowers.
What
You do get some flowers.
Yeah.
What did you say? It's dairy resistant?
Dare.
Deer.
Deer. D-E-R.
Sorry,
I
that-
got my southern and northern twang
Well,
all
in
mixed
San
together.
Diego, you're a little bit of everything, right?
I'm a mix.
Connecticut, all
So
those.
deer do not want these.
They do not eat ligularia.
Oh,
Yeah,
but
that's a big problem I have at my house. And so
he
we
uses
talked
these.
about that.
He uses the fancy words. I'd be like, "Where's the tractor seat plant?"
that's right. That's right.
That's why I always put common names with it. Yes,
Yeah.
that's how I remember things
The
too.
tractor. And what's this last? Is this
Oh
a
my gosh.
bush? It
We
looks like
grew
a bush.
this, believe it or not, in San Diego, but it's winter hardy here until we have a severe 0 degrees, which is always possible, and it burns back. But that's called pittosporum, also called mock orange. Now, there are other plants called mock orange, and the reason why they're called that, when it blooms in normally the fall, as Adam's trying to smell
like,
it in
it doesn't smell
spring,
like orange.
it smells great, doesn't it?
It doesn't really smell like anything.
The flowers.
And Adam, smell it again.
Okay, awesome. Nope, still smells the same.
The flowers are insignificant, but they're very fragrant, and they mock the smell of citrus. The citrus flowers, and they're also variegated foliage. So if you mix all three of those together, you got color of the foliage, and all three of them have different texture.
What about like, I'm going way off script here, Chris, but I know you can handle it. What about like herbs and things like that? Are those kind of shade?
No, they're going to be more sun.
Okay.
But like mint, which can take over a flower bed, that can grow in semi-shade area, and it's a great shade ground cover if you don't mind it taking over.
I've got this really cool thing in my yard called weeds.
Yeah,
and it loves anything, everything.
Nature knows best, right? And she's really good with her weeds.
Why can't we make that a more popular thing for our flower beds? Because I mean,
it's
win.
green. It's more green than anything else.
Well, if you really look at this, most annuals and perennials at some point in time were weeds.
I'm going to make it popular.
Well,
then all my neighbors are jealous of all the weeds I have.
So that's a little tease, because coming up later in the show, we actually visit with Chris about how to best take care of those weeds in those flower beds.
Coming up, roses are some of the most popular bushes, but how do you make sure they bloom and flourish this spring? We're sharing some of Chris Olsen's tips after the break. This feels good. I mean, there's so many plants.
Tells you everything you need to know right
there. Hey, welcome back to The Vine. It's Ashley King and Tracy Bean here at Plantopia. We've been talking to Chris H. Olsen, just all things plants. And Tracy, you said these are some of your favorites.
I love grasses and anything like that as well. The taller one over there. I just think they're so pretty, and all the texture that goes along with them. And I kind of find that I gravitate just towards more of a green look. And my husband's always wanting me to put color in it. Let's put some color in it.
Well, of course. And you don't really seem like a stranger to all of these plants. I feel like you get out there from time to time.
I am in heaven. I'm having the best time, and my car might be loaded up when we leave here today.
That's
I'll be
okay.
back for sure.
We're here. Might as well load up.
Right.
So for any kind of special occasion, maybe Mother's Day, birthday, do your kids or family tend to get you plants?
Plants or roses, flowers that I love, which, my favorite thing is to not find a holiday and just treat somebody on a Tuesday.
Right.
I think that's always the best time to get a gift like this.
And a bouquet of flowers is always amazing.
Yes.
But it's great, too, when you get something that you could also plant.
Right, that you can keep for a while. And that's one of the things I love about sharing plants
like
instead
rose
of
bushes.
a flower.
Yeah. So Chris H. Olsen has been on our show many times to talk about how to keep your rose bushes looking alive. And let's check out some of those tips.
Today, it's all about roses.
Yeah, roses are the number one blooming shrub that most people buy. Of course, they buy them usually for Mother's Day because most moms love roses. So I'm going to tell you about different varieties of roses and the goods and the bads, because I like roses, but I don't grow a lot of them because they have to take a little bit of maintenance and upkeep.
Really?
So this is not a plant for either one of you.
Okay, wait. I have roses that are growing, and I haven't done anything to them.
This side is the good side, and we're going to talk about that.
Is it like knock something?
Yeah,
knock
these are
downs or something?
these are hedge roses. But we're going to talk first about the grandifloras, which is what most of us think of roses. When we think of long stem cut roses, they're grandifloras. They're just one bud, one flower, and a long stem.
I think this is what my grandmother would grow, and they were so pretty.
Yeah, they're beautiful. And then there's Floribunda. Floribunda has multitude of buds on one stem, which is one of my favorites because you get a lot more color out of it. This is called iceberg, which is not quite open yet, but it's white, and this is beautiful because it just gets covered in flowers.
Where can this grow?
Okay, in full sun. They have to have good drainage. That's what roses, usually the grandifloras and stuff, like good drainage, full sun, and not a sprinkler system watering above. They like to be watered below, otherwise they get block spot. So that's the disadvantage with grandifloras. The old-fashioned roses is you have to keep them sprayed about every 4 or so weeks to make sure to prevent the fungus, the insects and such. But luckily there's lots of products on the market that are all 3-in-1. They're insecticide, a modicide, a fungicide, and everything. So as long as you stick with it, you're okay. But on this side, ta-da! Well, of course, growers listen to people, and they have hybridized roses to be less maintenance. And this is probably what you have in your yard.
Probably so.
You have the knockout rose,
That's what we have.
This is the light pink one, but also comes in red. The knockout rose is probably the #1 selling shrub rose because you can use it as a hedge. You don't have to really spray it. You don't usually have to fertilize it. And if you do, it helps.
Yeah, mine look pretty good right now.
They're gorgeous.
Yeah, and they grow back every year. They
grow back every year. And then this one is one called Top Gun. It looks like a knockout. I'm telling you what, I planted the Top Gun in my garden all summer long. It's covered in buds. And it's a self-cleaner, so you don't have to deadhead it all.
So wait, is this dead right here?
That was spent. That's a spent flower.
Do you pick that off?
You can, if you know, but this usually grows so fast and blooms so much it covers it. That's what's great about it. But what I use a lot of my designs, if you want a dwarf rose, a dwarf shrub that is a heavy bloomer, drift roses. Okay, coral. The darker the flower on roses, usually the tougher it is. That's why yellows and stuff are a little bit weaker. Let me tell you something. This baby will bloom now all the way until fall.
Really? It's gorgeous.
Full force. And it comes in coral, it comes in pink, white, yellow. So it comes in many different colors. And red, of course. We use a lot of our red razorbacks and such. But again, if you fertilize about every 4 to 6 weeks with the all-purpose rose fertilizer, you will get about a 300% difference in how it blooms.
So is it smart to kind of add this into other, the design of your flower beds and stuff? I just can't
mix
do
it with some other flowers and.
Well, that's why you hire a landscape architect like blah. You keep talking about, but you don't do. But anyway.
Right.
Yes, roses. I wouldn't do a whole garden just in roses.
So
if it's going to be a landscape, mix it up. It's accent plants is what
Different
you want.
heights.
Different heights. But if you like roses, you can do the short one, the taller one, so on, so on.
I didn't know there were so many varieties, but yeah, these do pretty well in a rocky area because we have a lot of rocks.
You have good drainage there.
Yes, there we go.
Don't forget to slow down and smell the roses. Call Chris H. Olsen, Plantopia, Botanica Gardens.
That was good.
Was it?
Yeah. Smell the he just had to throw that in there. Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All I can think about is that old song, "Roses are red, my love, violets are blue."
There's a lot of songs about roses.
Just like that. It sounds just like that.
You gave so many great tips on how to take care of these roses. My grandmother used to have these tall rose bushes. They were beautiful, and she was very, very proud of them.
Well, roses are sometimes can be a little bit difficult to grow, but when you know how to do it, they're well worth it.
Yeah, and I mean, I still think about her, rose bushes and cows.
By the way,
she had a lot of cows.
Don't get any ideas. I'm not cutting my hair that short again. That was a while ago. And it's important to remember to prune your plants to help them reach their peak potential this spring. Coming up after the break, Chris walks us through the weather garden and shows us what needs trimming on this special edition of The Vine.
Welcome back to The Vine. I'm here at Plantopia with Chris H. Olsen, and we've had the best time today. Everything is so pretty, and of course, everyone's going to be out at spring break buying, but we got to talk about weeding. We have to take care of these beautiful little babies.
That's exactly right. This is the time of year we're having warmer days and warmer nights, and this is when the weeds pop up and show their little faces.
All right, well, check it out here. Chris is going to tell us what products we need to use to keep these babies healthy.
This is kind of like when you got me for Mother's Day. It had all the roots in it.
Yeah, and with all the rain we had, and now with the warm nights, weeds are everywhere. So I thought we'd start with what you do in your turf and then go to your flower beds.
Great.
That is one weed I just pulled out of our flower beds here.
Yeah.
And and weeds are easy to control as long as you start early with them.
Right.
All right? First thing, if you have turf and you have existing weeds, there's two things you can do for turf. You do a pre-emerge. Pre-emerge means that prevents weeds from germinating. You want to do that at certain times
times a year, so you want to read the bag, and it tells you when to apply it. But if you have existing weeds, then you want to do what we call post-emergent. It kills existing weeds in your turf.
Oh, okay.
Now, if you follow those two programs, you're okay. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's probably easier to hire a chemical company because they have it all organized, and you don't touch the chemicals.
Right.
So, but when it comes to the flower beds, we actually have a pre-emerge for flower beds.
Okay.
It looks like fertilizer, and if you put it out early enough in the season, it prevents any weeds from germinating, so you don't even have to pull or spray weeds in your flower bed.
That's good. So what is a good time to do that?
Usually, well, weeds start germinating usually around March and April. So February is the time I go ahead and apply it for my spring
so
weeds.
it's a little late.
It's a little late now, but there's still weeds germinate every day.
Yeah.
So you can still do it. It's a little late, but then there's other products you can use. We have one called Over the Top. Awesome, because if you have weeds in your ornamental plants, your ground covers, and you can't pull it, you can spray it on selective plants. It doesn't harm the plants, just the weeds.
Oh, great.
So, and Roundup.
How does it know what's a weed and
I
what's
don't
a
know.
plant?
There's a cell.
There's
It's a
some
cellular
science
makeup,
there. Yeah.
molecule, something like that. It's a science. And then there's different products like Roundup. Now Roundup has had a bad rap, and I went to a class on it. It is actually safer to use than vinegar. So it's all how you use it. You
Right.
got to go by the directions. And Roundup comes in either a concentrate, ready to use, or what you got to mix with water, which I did here, or it comes in a ready to use.
Gotcha.
The concentrate is stronger. And we're talking about how you kill weeds. Now, I'm going to be honest, when I use Roundup, I make it stronger than what they say, but I'm careful how I use it.
Right.
So I don't abuse it. Do not spray weed killers on a windy day.
Oh, okay.
Because it will kill anything it drifts onto.
Yeah.
So you want to do it on a still day, and you want to do it on a day it's not going to rain. As long as it dries, you can still have your sprinkler on the next day. It doesn't wash off.
Right. And then my
As such.
question a little while ago was people maybe have concerns about their pets. Can they spray this if they have pets that go in the backyard?
Yes, you can. Spray it, let it dry, and then you can let your pets out. So you should be A-okay. And there's all different types of chemicals besides Roundup, like Kill-All. And Kill-All means you can kill poison ivy and all those pesky vines. The key thing is sometimes it takes more than one application because sometimes the weeds are stubborn and have a big root system.
Right.
And sometimes when you're spraying, you miss areas.
Yeah.
So you always want to go the next week and spray again. You'll get it under control.
I have PTSD about weeds. I had to pull weeds out of our garden as a kid, and I can't stand weeds. I don't like plants because I got to pull the weeds. I'm sick of them.
And that is why I'm here. We have a maintenance company.
There you go.
Delegate it.
There you
Because
go.
some people,
That's
when they
right.
do it themselves, they actually enjoy it. I have friends that are like, I love going out and pulling weeds.
Oh,
It's
my
like
Well, I
goodness.
don't.
therapeutic. I know, and other people like us, we do not like to do it.
But I'm a good
you can
sprayer,
handle it.
though. I spray. I
That's
do
right.
spray.
Yeah, my husband likes to do this too. He feels like he's like official out there spraying.
Well,
stuff.
when you win the battle and your yard starts looking good, it
you're like-
makes you want to do it again.
That's awesome.
Well, there you go. Chris H. Olsen, if you don't want to do it, call him. He'll come by and do it himself, I guess.
Personally, yeah.
I'll send someone.
Okay.
Well, now we know exactly what we need to do to keep those weeds away, although that's all that I have. So it's just going to be, I don't know.
I hate
Yeah,
those
nothing.
darn weeds.
Well, they can take over for sure.
They're pretty weeds, Ashley.
They
They're-
are.
they're- you
My
have the-
weeds
you have
are
the
the prettiest
prettiest,
weeds.
weediest yard in the neighborhood.
Yes, don't be jealous. So you put Adam to work in our weather garden back at the station the other day. He learned a few tips from you.
Exactly right. I like free labor, and he did a great job.
Yeah, we've already been working out here today, but let's check out the job that Adam did back at the station.
We're here with Chris H. Olsen out in the weather garden. This time of year, we're thinking about trimming back on certain things, and I know the crepe myrtles. I remember you talking.
There's a debate.
There is a debate on whether to trim your crepe myrtles back or not. Chris H. Olsen, what is the word?
Well, I guess the thing to know is why do we trim back crepe myrtles?
Well, why do we?
Okay, well, two main reasons. Number one, if you plant them close to a house, sometimes they get too big,
Okay.
so they can contain their size.
All right.
Number two, if you do trim them, when they do bloom, the blooms will be a little bit longer and bigger.
Okay.
So that is a true thing. Now, my personal preference is I love a tree the way God intended it to be,
Yeah.
and let it to grow natural and as
Okay.
big as possible. That's what I like about crepe myrtles.
Now, Now, Michael Bennett, I know you're in the control room. Whenever you get a chance, this tree over here is a crepe myrtle.
Huge one.
So Michael Bennett will be pulling that up here in just a minute. It's this big, tall tree, but they're not that big at my house because we've trimmed them back
You
every
trim
year.
them back. Now, are they against your house, the trees?
No, they're up by the road.
Okay, so it's up to you if you want it to look like this.
Okay.
I would let it grow big, and sometimes you don't have to trim. If you do trim them back, we don't always trim all the way down to the stub of the plant. We might trim 3 foot off the top and still keep the canopy.
I kind of try to go where the knuckles are. Is that the, I don't
Well,
know. What
I
do you
think
call that?
that just, well, that's the knobs.
The knob,
Yeah.
okay.
And, and some people cut below that, which you really do not want to do.
Okay.
So I try to just cut a couple feet off the top and not nub it down.
Okay.
And that makes the tree look a little bit more natural.
Okay. So,
But it's up to
So
you.
you say to let them grow.
I like to let them grow the way, you can see where that one was trimmed at one time.
You're going to hate this, but I like to take my chainsaw and...
Yeah, you're one of those.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a mad pruner myself, so I get it.
What about these hydrangeas back
Okay.
here? They look dead.
They look dead, but they are very much alive. Now, it depends upon the variety of hydrangea.
Yeah.
So, like these are PG hydrangea, which bloom on new wood.
Yeah.
So, we're going to trim those in half.
Okay. Can we walk back here
yeah.
and you'll show us real fast? I'm blocking the camera shot here for a second.
So, I trim them, I'll just go like this.
Okay.
Boom. Boom.
Oh.
And I know you're like, oh my God, but here's what happens. If you don't trim them, then they're just going to get way too big. They're going to get all into the holly and such.
So I'm just trying to pull this out to show. Okay,
Yeah.
so about that much right there.
Yeah,
is
it depends
trimmed.
upon the size of it. But if you trim it in half, is normally the rule.
Okay.
Now they're going to put out a lot of new growth. With that new growth, since they bloom on new growth, you're going to get a lot more flowers. This is a plant you want to trim.
Now, what a great shot, Michael Bennett. I want to get in the weeds just a little bit. No
Okay.
pun intended. Does it matter the angle in which I cut? So, oh gosh, I don't know if I'm able to describe this. So
I can see what you're
Do you
saying.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Will that affect how that new growth will
Well,
grow?
there's two things you
Can
need
you
to do.
articulate that?
Yeah. Well, first you always want to cut above a bud union.
Okay.
Where the leaves are, not in the middle. So this one we're going to cut right above where the new growth is going to come out. Now, if
Does
you,
it matter the angle?
Well, if you have, on the bigger the plant, yes, because if you cut it at an angle, the water comes off.
Okay.
See, when it rains, if you cut it flat, the water can sit and cause rot.
But that does not dictate on the angle at
No,
which the
not
new
at all.
growth will
Not at all.
okay.
Now, if you have the time to do that, it's okay if I don't.
Okay, last question I have for you. We're moving here. We're moving. Keep up with me here. I see some bulbs out here in the
Yes.
weather garden, and you said there's a reason these are sitting on top of the ground.
Well, they were planted,
They were.
but we have little squirrels that, they don't necessarily eat them, but they'll dig them up.
Okay.
And so you can replant them.
All right. So I'm noticing there's some growth
Mm-hmm.
on top of this. What's the proper way of dealing with this? You just sink them down?
Yep.
I don't know.
You normally want to plant a tulip. Now, tulip bulbs we treat as annuals. They don't bloom strong the next year.
Okay.
So I don't plant them terribly deep, but 6 inches is the rule, but you can go about to 4 inches is okay. And usually the last time you want to plant your bulbs, really no later than mid-December.
So it's too late to do it now.
When I'll tell you why. If you still have them, you haven't planted them, you can go ahead and plant them, but they're going to have to root out first. And then once they put their growth, which is going to take about 8 weeks in total for them to do all that, we're going to be now into our April and starting our May period before they
Okay.
bloom, which is hot. We start warming up.
Oh, I see.
And they don't bloom in time.
They're not going to be super healthy
So,
at that time.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So they'll burn up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to all the growth that's happening. I'm seeing stuff already coming up. They're about to get shocked here, but it is what it is.
It's February.
It is the season. Chris H. Olsen, how can we learn more about what you have to offer?
You can just log on to chrisholsen.com and check me out.
All right, Plantopia or Botanica Gardens
Yep.
over there. Be sure to go check them out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Go trim those bushes. All right, Chris, you have inspired me. To my neighbors, I'm not trimming my crepe myrtles this year.
Yeah, I like it the way God made them. Let them grow big unless you have to contain their size.
I promise I'm not trying to be. I'm just going to see what happens this year, okay?
Okay, all right.
All right, listen, we are about to wrap things up here at Plantopia. We've had a great time, but don't go anywhere because we have a little bit left.
Welcome back to The Vine. We have had so much fun hanging out here with Chris H. Olsen, and Plantopia is just filled with so many different types of plants, and even for your vegetable garden. I mean, you have everything.
We try to carry everything, and every day it comes in more.
Well, and it's been good to look back at some things and get some great tips, on how to maximize our space, because it's where we live. It's where we want to enjoy our lives.
Yeah, I love these look backs because there's always things that you see and you're like, oh, I want to do that. And then you forget. So these look back shows are always the best.
Well, you can find all of the old clips from Chris H. Olsen on our free THV11 Plus app. All you have to do is download onto any of your smart devices, and you can check it out right there.